Quick to try and recover from the trans madness and fallout after the short-lived Dylan-Mulvaney partnership, Anheuser-Busch took another stab at actually advertising toward their market demographic, which, as it turns out, they're not real big Dylan-Mulvaney fans. Shocker. The company released a new, noticeably pro-America Budweiser ad featuring one of their signature Clydesdales running across the country while a narrator talked about the American spirit. Watch.
Let me tell you a story about a beer rooted in the heart of America, found in a community where a handshake is a sure contract, brewed for those who found opportunity in challenge and hope in tomorrow, raised by generations willing to sip, share, risk, remember. This is a story bigger than beer. This is the story of the American spirit.
Well, spoiler alert, if Bud was looking to patch things up with their consumers, they did not achieve that goal. The backlash was swift and severe. Americans were seemingly more annoyed than ever that not only did Bud completely betray their formerly loyal consumers, they also didn't acknowledge the betrayal at all. But the View's Whoopi Goldberg insists that it shouldn't be a Democrat or Republican issue because beer just isn't political. Watch.
Welcome back. Before we start about this, I'm going to say this out loud. I'm a big Budweiser fan. When I drank, I liked my Budweiser, okay? So I have a lot of feeling about this. Bud Light's ad campaign with trans-influencer Dylan McDermott. Mulvaney, sorry. Now you're breaking
Doesn't even know his name.
We have breaking news. That's right. Ignited an angry conservative backlash and a boycott that included online trends of people posting videos destroying cases of Bud Light in various stupid ways. The company puts out a statement saying they didn't mean to address an issue that divided people. But I want to know, what are you so angry about? Beer does not have a, I mean, it's not a Democrat or a Republican. Yeah. It doesn't have a belief system. It's just beer.
Oh, it's fascinating that the same people who created the boycott culture, the same people who wrote the playbook for using public pressure in order to mainstream their ideology, now all of a sudden don't want companies to be political. Who do you think started this, Whoopi? Who do you think made it impossible to separate private companies from politics? Who insisted on incorporating ESG and DEI into American businesses? Who forced companies to post black squares on Instagram to support the domestic terrorist group Black Lives Matter? Who insisted every company that ever existed put out a public statement on their thoughts about the Ukrainian war? You guys did that. And now that we're following your playbook, you want to change the terms of the game? Beer isn't Democrat or Republican? No. Everything is now Democrat or Republican, according to you. You set the rules, so let's play the game. Here to discuss this and more, I have Chad Prather, host of The Chad Prather Show, and Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, of course, former congressman and the executive director of ACRU. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. It's mind-boggling to me that now that conservatives have finally, gotten their head out of their asses long enough to do something like this, like actually make a change, actually stand up and say, we're not going to do this anymore. Now, all of a sudden, please, beer is just beer. It's not Democrat or Republican, as if they have not been forcing every single private company to make some sort of a political statement for the last, 10 years, 5 years?
Yeah. I'm enjoying watching it. I get Anheuser-Busch employs a lot of people who have nothing to do with this debacle. And if they continue to lose profits, then those people are going to be the ones who suffer, which is all the more reason why people like us who have a platform need to speak out against this, because as long as the Anheuser-Busch's of the world, who are members of the World Economic Forum, are continuing to get pressure from the Vanguards and the Black Rocks and the WEFs to be a company that's building their ESG scores and making sure that their woke agenda is the narrative that's being pushed. Listen, if the big companies are going to cave to it, the little companies in America don't have a chance. I mean, they'll never survive. So it's now that I think we do have to stand up and say, okay, we're not going to be ruled by your paradigm and your worldview. And when you push this on the American people and you say, well, it's about beer, it's not about beer, it's about pushing a transgender agenda, transsexist agenda in the wake of a shooting that was carried out in Nashville, Tennessee by a transgender terrorist. And you threw everybody under the bus and said, we're just going to ignore that, and we're going to make this guy who has pretended to be a little girl for 365 days a voice for this dysphoria. And I'm glad to see it. I mean, every store I go into, I always check to see how much Bud Light's still on the rack, and it's full. Nobody's buying that swill. I mean, they're just not doing it. I'm not a beer drinker. I mean, I go a little harder than that, but so I'm not really missing out on anything. I'm not missing out on anything. Colonel?
Well, first of all, we got to ask, did the Clydesdale identify? I mean, we got to make sure that that's clear. But it's so interesting, so hypocritical that The View is on ABC. And there's another show that's on ABC called Dancing with the Stars. Mm-hmm. And I remember when Sean Spicer was invited to be on Dancing with the Stars, and the left went apoplectic, saying that let's not look at it, kick him off of it, whatever. So, maybe she forgot that the network that she's on, tried to go after and cancel a program or kick off a conservative person. But you're right. This whole thing about what, Bud and Nike now with the sports bra, what they're all doing is because of a leftist organization, the Human Rights Commission or Council, whatever they call themselves, which is a major LGBTQIA WXYZ organization funded by George Soros. And they're coming out with this corporate equity index, and they're putting pressure on these corporations to do exactly what Bud Light did. So again, they need to look at themselves in the mirror, because they're the ones that are going out there and saying, you better do what we want or else.
Right.
And that's just the bottom line.
I mean, Mrs. Butterworth, they erased a black woman. Aunt Jemima, they erased a black woman. Uncle Ben erased a black man. They kept Quaker Oats dude. They kept Dylan Mulvaney, so two white guys made it through. The Land of Lakes is an interesting one. They kicked the Native American off and kept the land.
Tells you something.
That sounds familiar.
So, Colonel, you mentioned you want to know how the horse identified, the Clydesdale identified. I want to play for you guys. Mr. Reagan, a great follow on YouTube. You guys should check his channel out. He created a parody to this Budweiser commercial. Let's watch that.
Hi there, my name is Prancer. I identify as a reindeer. This ad is what we call damage control. Our thinking is, maybe if we post an ad with our iconic Clydesdale that identifies as a reindeer, and we say vaguely patriotic things,
This is the story of the American spirit.
people will like us again.
Incidentally, I used to have a deep, rich baritone voice. Then I started drinking Bud Light.
It changes you. Look at these two typical American firemen. We can't put two white people together in an ad. We still have to virtue signal a little. I mean, we're still woke. We're just not that woke. Here's another couple of people, also two different races. I mean, honestly, what we really need to do is just say, oh, we f***ed up. But we all know that's not gonna happen. So just look at the pretty horse that identifies as a reindeer and drink Budweiser again. If you don't, they said they're taking me to the glue factory. Look, there's two more dudes. Is that guy white? Is he Hispanic? Nobody knows. He's what we call ethnically ambiguous, our favorite race of all. This white guy gets it. So remember, folks, at Budweiser, we'll always be a little woke. This Bud's not for you. Maybe cutting my tail off is a mistake. What do you guys think? Well, it's too late now. No coming back from that.
No, it's great. And it really is offensive and condescending that somebody at Anheuser-Busch said, let's just, put this commercial together and they'll forget it all.
Right. Yeah. Right. We'll win him back with the Clydesdale.
It's condescending.
It's totally condescending.
Yeah.
That's how little they think of you.
Yes. So they made it worse.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They made it
salt
completely
in the wound.
worse. Yeah.
Salt in the wound. And they don't care because, first of all, we are the American spirit. You're owned by a Belgian company. Yes. Yeah. And then where a handshake matters. Is St. Louis really? I don't know how many of y'all been in St. Louis. Yeah. I don't know how often y'all go to St. Louis these days. Don't. But yeah, this is a very patronizing, condescending way of doing this, but they don't care, and they don't have to care because they've got the black hole depths of money behind them as benefactors to make sure as long as they do the woke agenda, they'll be fine.
So speaking of that, over the weekend, I don't know how many people are still watching Saturday Night Live.
People.
Is there 7?
Maybe.
It's up to 7?
I think it's the cast.
It's just the cast and like their spouses that are watching it. So they introduced their first, non-binary cast member. This is Molly Kearney, who uses they, them pronouns and went on SNL to talk about the growing list of, anti-trans laws moving across the country. It's always anti-trans. We don't want to mutilate children. That's anti-trans, she says. Watch.
For far too long, and I'm starting to feel like a frickin' Republican lawmaker. Hello!
That's an awesome transition. So, as of this week, there are now over 14 states that have passed bills restricting health care for trans kids.
Listen to that, Michael.
Yeah.
Restricting healthcare for kids. For some reason, there's something about the word trans that makes people forget the word kids. If you don't care about trans kids' lives, it means you don't care about frickin' kids' lives.
Wow. I can tell you're really upset
I thought
about
this was a
that.
comedy show. I thought this was a comedy show. But wait. It's not supposed to be political. It's not supposed to be Democrat or Republican. But wait, that it literally is always about politics with these people. And it's fascinating, if you don't want a child to get mutilated, you don't care about kids. That's really weird dichotomy I'm hearing right now.
So remember a year ago, 18 months ago, the big topic was toxic masculinity, right?
Yes.
They went after that. You had to have the beta males. Anything that was masculine was evil. So they went after that, basically destroyed the idea of manhood. Then they went after women because this rationalization is a complete, they're stereotyping women, one thing, but they're not only taking their place in sports and positions of society, but they're going after the children, right? And the children are the most vulnerable among us. And not only has the abortion issue been a major thing for a long time, and certainly we've talked about that with the repealing of Roe v. Wade, but now they're going after born children. And just call it, and again, because if you can redefine men, redefine women, masculinity, femininity, then you can redefine things like healthcare. And you can call lopping off genitals and chemical castration and hormone therapies, you can call that healthcare. That's not healthcare. That's medically altering someone. That's a slasher movie.
That's like kind of the opposite of healthcare, Colonel.
It's totally the opposite of healthcare, and it's not gender-affirming care. It's gender mutilation because you are still a biological male, a biological female. You're not changing your DNA, your chromosomes, or any of this type of stuff. But what is interesting to me is that the biological female who plays in La La Land that thinks she is now a male that goes into a Christian school and shoots 3 9-year-old kids, 2 of which were little girls. That's okay. That no one cares about their lives. But if you prevent us from being able to go in and mutilate bodies of children, you are restricting them from having health care. Now, what is so disconcerting and disturbing for me now is that the military is coming out and saying that we will go down and we will do this to your children in the military. And we want to inform you of that.
No parental
consent. No parental consent. These are people in the military. So now all of a sudden I am deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan. And the next thing you know, someone makes a decision that they're going to put my child under mutilation surgery. So when I come back from Iraq or Afghanistan, my daughter's breasts have been lumped off because she said so, and you did not inform me and tell me that. That's why we have this lack of retention, lack of recruiting in our military, because they're telling us that our children aren't our children. We own your children. And the fact that the state of Washington just passed a law that says you will go to jail, parent, if you do not allow your child to say that I want this surgery done. They can't go out and vote. They can't go out and smoke. They can't go out and buy a Bud Light if they wanted to buy a Bud Light. They can't go out and buy a gun. But somehow this child under the age of 18 who cannot vote can make a decision about surgery.
And with the military thing, it's gotten so bad in the military with this wokeism. And I feel like it just kind of goes back to, Chad, what you mentioned with coming after what they call toxic masculinity. And now, however many years later, we have a military that has just completely lost its balls. Yeah. Both metaphorically and literally, because they're just chopping them off and telling them that they're women. So it is really frightening to see continue to just go further and further down that slippery slope.
If you like that clip, there is plenty more where that came from. Click the link in the description below to subscribe to the News and Why It Matters YouTube channel to watch the full episode.